everybody, welcome in. Welcome to Refining Reality, where we talk about energy from consumption, demand side, back to the source of supply, the market beyond the market. And this podcast, Refining Reality, is sponsored by Tracerco. As a global leader in diagnostic technologies, Tracerco offers real-time measurement insights for the refining and petrochemical industry, helping you make confident decisions and optimizing performance. Tracerco's technology delivers accurate, live, and online data so that you can benchmark operations, focus improvements where they matter most, and catch issues early before they impact production. The result? Fewer shutdowns, lower costs, and confidence to run your plant at full potential. And ironically, that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about the end of unplanned downtime.
Are you ever going to memorize that thing?
No, I'm never going to memorize that thing. I'm going to read it, and you're just going to have to deal with it. So I can retain 3 words at a time. That's what I can retain.
Well, there you go. You could read it really slowly.
But we're going to talk about the end of unplanned downtime. And this is something, when you think about the energy industry and the interconnectivity between the oil side all the way to the refinery, through the refinery, on the other side, and then natural gas, everything is interconnected to where one thing can trip the whole system. As a matter of fact, I always use this example of a hurricane that hit Beaumont, Texas, shut in production in Wyoming. That's it. That's all I got to say about that. But this is how this episode is going to be how predictive maintenance, specifically AI, is going to change us from reactive repairs down to AI-powered precision. Now, why is this important, Bill?
Well, Brian, every time I tour a plant, I always have to have an escort. Because I think if they paint a button red, you should push it. Apparently that's not the rule.
Your brain automatically goes to the red button.
Exactly.
It just
if you
goes
don't
to
want
the
me
red.
to push it, don't paint it red.
Right.
So preventive maintenance is probably the toughest thing to do. So we're probably not going to end unplanned maintenance because it's actually going to be those 2:00 in the morning calls when someone says, this temperature's down, this valve stuck, this is done to this. What we're looking for AI to do, and it will be able to tell you which component's going to go out soon. In fact,
Right.
And as it learns and as it goes, every time it goes through a process, it learns a little bit better, and it can tell you the tolerances on certain materials and how quickly they will disintegrate. They will also be able to tell you temperatures if you got hot spots in towers. It's going to talk to you about those different type of things. It's going to learn, and you're going to teach it what you're looking for. And what that happens is, it says now, instead of us saying, okay, every 2 weeks we're going to do this, we can say, okay, this maintenance is big, this maintenance is small. How do we schedule that to where it makes the most sense to get it right and also cost the least amount of downtime? And downtime is equal to money, always equal to money. If you're down, you're not making money. Now, you have to plan for downtime. And so it's not necessarily unplanned maintenance. It's making your planned maintenance much more efficient and much more specific, which is something that, when you crack open a tire, all of a sudden you go, oh my gosh, I didn't expect this. Do you have to wait on a part to do? No, you have everything ready there. It could even be as simple as not having so many spare parts on order or having all the right spare parts on order. So, yes, this is going to be there. So what this is going to do is going to help you with your cost reductions. It's going to be less time down. It's going to be able to predict some of the failures that you already know is going to happen. Mm-hmm. So, I try to tell people the first day is the best day of any plant or refinery. After that, things just break. You're just managing the cost of what they call the break. It's just how it is. Things just wear out. That's what they do.
Right.
And I think the last time we looked at something like this, we were talking that unplanned downtime in oil and gas costs like $1 million an hour. And now
Right.
they're looking at the actual costs, and they're looking at what it costs to. Sometimes when you can't just turn a factory on and off, or you can't turn a refinery on and off. You've got to plan their downtime, and you have to bring them back up slowly till everything gets to temperature. So all of that is time lost, and time is money. So yeah, I mean, $1 million an hour. Yeah, you might be able to pay for a little bit of software with that.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, if we have 13.8 million barrels a day and each barrel is worth 60 to $70, each hour is very valuable. Whether
Exactly.
you're talking about on the supply side, whether you're talking about the refining side, or even on the downstream side, which is where we focus, um, on the distillate side, the diesel side, jet fuel, marine bunker fuel, all
Right.
of this kind of gets back to an overarching shift in the energy industry. And the energy industry first started kind of reactive. Well, engineers were phenomenal. They brought on production and they brought on things. And then we evolved into more preventative maintenance. Fix it before on a schedule, do annual maintenance. It's part of the reason refineries have annual turnarounds. So
Right.
that's when they shut everything down deliberately so that they can fix, monitor, and test certain equipments. Equipments? Is that even a
This that's very
is that
impressive,
the
Brian.
plural? Is the
You your
equipments?
your your grasp of the vocabulary is very impressive, just not in
As I
that good way.
as I tell my wife, words is good. Words is
Yeah.
good. So, but we're now entering a new phase. And that new phase is driven by AI. Now, I want to demystify something. We use AI here at Energy Rogue as part of our business. We focus on energy markets and we study the markets every single day. We have AI models that predict the price. We have AI models that predict supply, demand, storage, weather. We have AI models that pick weather. One thing I would say is that if you look at AI, it is built upon math and iteration, and that math is the same math that weather models have been using for years. Now, I don't know if you've noticed, but weather people are wrong a lot. So the thing is that it's built upon iterations. What AI can do a little bit different, and this is why it's a leap, is humans were manually pushing this data through an engine on the AI. Now computers are able to do it at 1/1000th of the time so they can iterate again and again and again and again when it would take a human probably a week to go through that.
So
So,
what you really want to do is you want to take artificial intelligence and turn it into the next AI, which is actionable intelligence.
right.
You want to be able to take action from what you learned from your artificial intelligence. And so we're going to be looking at this. Man, I tell you what, it's just amazing how much money is sitting out there just to be refined tighter and to be more efficient. And I know you can't efficiently do everything, but I'm just telling you, just think about this. If it's $1 million an hour, Brian, that means in 1 hour, I could have had 4 Ferraris instead of, you know, spending time on a refinery. Now,
Right.
I don't think I need four Ferraris. I mean, you could probably throw in a Porsche, but
I don't
but
I'm not
it has value.
I'm not into the whole car thing. I'm not
Well,
into that.
of course, you've never been in the car thing, Brian. When I first met you, you were driving a Toyota Corolla. Come on, give me a break.
Nissan Sentra. Nissan Sentra. Shout out to
Oh, was
Nissan.
that it? Toyota, Nissan. You attracted the same group with it. I promise you
Right.
that.
Well, actually, it's kind of funny. I tell this story a lot. Is that this was back before the internet was widespread. It existed, but nobody used it. There were a few people maybe doing blogs in the 1990s, and then late 90s it started getting a little bit more traction, a little bit more usability. So I did a lot of research on what kind of car I was going to buy. And I figured out what I was going to buy and how much I wanted to pay. So I walked into the dealership and I said, this is the car that I want, this is the model, and this is how much I want to pay. And we did the little dealership song and dance and
Yeah,
rodeo and yeah, well, let me go talk to the boss and you want to go on a test drive? And I said, doesn't matter. I'm going to be here for an hour and that's it. And then I'm walking out. So either I will have bought a car from you or I'm walking out. So sure enough, 45 minutes in, we started getting serious. We finally got to the number. So after an hour of this, I call it a dog and pony show, just whatever weird ritual that is in the car
it's a
sales
dance. There's no other
arena,
way to describe it. It's a
the dance.
dance.
So after an hour, he finally says, "Okay, I'll do that. I'll do that price." And I say, "Okay, great." He goes, "What color?" What? Huh? What color car
Yeah,
do you want? Oh, I don't know. What do you have?
exactly.
Like I negotiated so hard that the color just it was an afterthought to me. Like some people that's important
Well,
to me. It
red
was
ones are more expensive than green ones. That's what you know. That's just how it works.
I got a maroon one. I got a maroon
Always
one.
reminds me. You know what Henry Ford says.
What?
He says when he first came out with the Model T, he says you can have a Model T in any color you want as long as it's black.
Well, listen, one of
So,
the oh, go ahead.
so tell me, but how much money can we really save on this?
I mean,
I mean, we got more sensors and everything, just like the Toyota, the Nissan that you bought back then, the Nissan you have right now. The biggest difference is the electronics, the amount of stuff they monitor.
mhm.
So when you're talking about a refinery, I mean, the more sensors you put in, I mean, you can put a lot of sensors. I mean, you're talking thousands, I think.
I'd probably put it this way. it, each refinery and each midstream organization or downstream organization is going to value things differently because it depends on the throughput and their profit margin. As those are the two key factors. But one of the neat things to think about is if you're reacting to something breaking, does it take you a week to fix it when it could take you 3 hours to fix it before it breaks? We were actually using AI to predict on the upstream side of the business. We were using AI to predict when a pump was going to fail so that we could repair it or replace it before the pump failed, because if the pump failed, the entire production facility would go down and we would have to stop everything, reset. And how long is that reset? And every organization and everything is going to be different, but it could be $1 million an hour. I mean, it could be a lot of money. And it gets back down to this, which is let's take home insurance. Let's say somebody has a home worth 300,000 and they have to pay $2,000 a year on insurance. I don't know what it costs, but let's let's pretend that's it. Well, if you have a complete unfortunate event and the house is destroyed and you have to rebuild it, well, it's worth 300,000. So you had to pay 2,000 to be able to replace that 300,000. There are some people that I don't want to spend the 2,000. So they
Right.
just run the
Take the
risk.
risk. Yeah.
And then to them, if there's a total disaster, it's worth 300,000. Hey, but there's a case where nothing breaks and you miraculously are fine. But anybody who's driven a car, um, had a home where we had electricity outage or gas outage or water outage, things break. Mechanical systems will
Right.
break at some time, and usually it's not when you want it, it's at the most inconvenient time possible, right?
That's right. You know, I've worked places where they had Even on our engines, they had monitors on every cylinder on that engine to know how it was performing and when it was, if one was wearing out worse than the other one. It's always being able to have the data. As you know, an energy rogue, we're always dealing with data, but we're always wanting to have data. We don't want to take that data, turn it into information into strategy into action. It's the same process wherever you go. If you just have information, it doesn't help you. But if you have information that helps you predict failures, then you can be ready for that failure, and you can plan your work around that. Surprises are always expensive in any business, especially the refining business, and for that matter, any oil field business. Surprises are always expenses. There's no surprise birthday parties. There's always a surprise disaster. And so we've seen it happen over our careers many times, Brian, where we've seen something happen and you just want to go, that could have been prevented, whether it was by person or by understanding the mechanics of what was going on, or, you know, and the problem is we deal with volatile equipment. We deal with volatile products.
Right.
You don't want those kind of surprises because they can become very tragic. And so
Yeah.
what you want to be able to do is predict what's going on in your process, be able to follow the process from input to output, and be able to not only just follow it, not only just monitor it, be able to chart its performance. And then that will help you understand how things are performing. It's always better to have that information than not have that information. It will get you there. In the past, it's too expensive to monitor all that. That expense has been going down for what you get back.
Right.
So when you start looking at that, it starts helping you save money. And so you got to get an ROA. Is that ROI? Isn't that right, Brian?
Yes. And having been in the energy industry for quite some time, I run into different types of mentality. Is I don't want to spend the $2,000 on insurance and I'll take the risk. And then you run into others where it's like, well, I'll pay 4,000 if I can ensure that I'm never going to have that event. You know, is if I, or not never, but if I can ensure that for 20 years I'm not going to have this event. It's interesting to think about because we were just talking about it on the Energy Rogue channel about winterizing natural gas flow. How the northern fields up in North Dakota, up in Canada, are more winterized than the southern fields. And there was an interesting question that we ran into on our show for Energy Rogue, which was how many days at $7 does it take to pay back that winterizing? And I'm like, I don't know. It's going to depend on the individual producer, but it's a good mental exercise. Like, what is the opportunity here? And when we see things that can come or impact, I mean, one of the interesting factors that I think about when it comes to using AI and predictive maintenance is the projection is based on the past. So another clarification on AI. AI can only forecast based upon past performance. It's something you always see in financial presentations. Past performance does not mean its future results. So AI is no different. It's learning from the past. Now, what's different about AI? It can learn faster, quicker, and I see it as my smart friend. You know, it's thank you,
Smart imaginary friend.
my smart friend, my friend that knows a lot more things than I do, such as you could get into a biosphere conversation with your smart friend, and well, what is that like? I don't know. What is that like?
You
So
really need to go out and rent you a life, Brian. I mean, you don't even have to buy it. Just rent you one.
I have real friends. I have let's see, Alexa, Siri,
Yeah, I was gonna say.
yeah, those are real friends, right?
That's right. Yeah, because they listen to you as opposed to other people.
one of the interesting things is that when we're looking at this, we try and demystify a lot of things on this podcast on refining reality is we look at the real circumstance. For example, when we talk about climate change and we talk about energy impact on the environment, well, let's make no bones about it that the energy industry has an environmental impact, but it also has an impact on our food supply, on our energy supply, on our transportation supply. So you've got to demystify things and look at myths and reality. And a few things that I jotted on over here. One is a myth of having set maintenance. Well, every first Tuesday of March of every year, we're going to shut down the facility and we're going to do the annual maintenance. That's great. The reality, 80% of the failures are random and they're not going to come because you did it on a Tuesday and it was preparing to fail on the Thursday. By the way, our AI pump prediction tool, it was helpful, but we could never get it predictive. We could never have an acuity of that prediction. So another,
All that's changing. I think all that's changing. I think we're getting more and more,
it's getting better,
and I'm not saying smarter. We're able to access the information we've collected
smarter. It's
faster,
smarter,
smarter.
smarter. Words is good.
How about smarter than the average bear? So, but I think the real key here is being able to plan your maintenance, get it done, be able to see when something's coming.
Right.
The last thing you want to do is not have a part available when you need it. And if something is wearing out constantly, you've done this for your whole life. Everyone out there is that when you see that, you start saying, well, maybe I have the wrong valve in there, or you start looking to see if the lifetime of whatever that product or part is really what they say it is. And so you start doing that. And so the sensors that you put out there are going to help you evaluate this much faster in
Mm-hmm.
greater detail. And then you got to be able to read all those sensors. I mean, it's going to be, and in some cases right now, it is one of the most extensive things going on the um, field side of the energy business
Mm-hmm.
is that these sensors are getting out there and it's been now. Is that going to replace a lot of people? Probably not. Is it going to make the people more efficient? Yes. Are they going to be able to do more with what they do? Yes. Are they going to have to? They're not going to spend their time guessing. They're going to spend their time doing. So now, being an old guy, I'm going to say it never replaces the experience that you get with some people who've experienced some things. But what it's going to do is going to give you more data to say, I think it's this instead of this. In other words, something upstream can be causing something downstream to fail, and the thing upstream is what you should be working on versus what you're trying to fix all the time on the downstream side. That's worth lots of money right there.
Well, it's kind of like trying to replace. You think the problem is your alternator in the car when it turns out it's just a spark plug, or it just you're fixing the wrong things, and not that it's time to change out the alternator, but is that your source problem? So finding like I had a weird thing with my Subaru Outback where I locked the car, right? I locked the car with a little key fob so it would lock. But then there was this weird electrical signal that would unlock the vehicle but keep the alarm engaged. So my car was open, but my car alarm would go off at 2 o'clock because somebody was trying to get in my car. I don't know for what, because I have a copy of my registration
So,
insurance, and
if I was you, Brian, on some of those cars, I would have left a $10 bill on the seat and let them take it.
maybe a couple of cords for charging. There's
Yeah.
like, I'm like, you guys picked the wrong car. I don't know what you're expecting in here, and it's also an old car, so it's like, what are you thinking? But
Yeah. Well, they
but
obviously won't.
anyhow, one other myth is that from shutting down to inspect. You shut down to inspect. The reality is there's an interesting thing that Tracerco has called Tru-Scan that inspects the full production as it's happening. So they're using technology to evaluate things as it's happening. It's kind of like when you take your car into the shop and they have the little computer machine. Then the computer machine is diagnosing what is actually happening, the signals, because there's signals out there, and
Yeah. Well,
but
they got the OD scopes now that you can do it yourself. You plug it into your deal. It tells you, it'll list whatever the codes were that are coming off, and they go through those codes, and then you can see what they're supposed to do. So when you get to the repair shop, you already know what you should be looking and what they should be telling you is going wrong with it. And so when you look at this, remember you want to don't just want to be a parts replacer. You want to be solving the problem
mhm,
instead of just fixing the broken stuff. And that's where you're going to that is the stuff that makes you money going down the road and also makes you money on the long term. And
right,
so I think preventive maintenance and what's going to be crazy is this AI is going to find things that we never thought of.
yeah,
That's going to be the things when you'll be looking at this going, well, how can that possibly be? And then when you start doing and doing the background and looking at where the things are, you're going to that. The other thing it's going to do is going to improve your testing procedures because you're going to be able to know what to test, where to test it, and what pressures to test it at. And so there's a lot of different things this is going to come in there. And so if you're not looking at some sort of AI preventive maintenance plan, you need to get started because you're already behind the eight ball. And
well,
so,
and another thing that we've run across, it's not so much around the AI, but it is around predictive and analytics. And I got into a debate with my boss, who was your boss at some point too, where I had an employee that was aggregating a bunch of data and assembling them and putting everything together, but that was taking 3 hours a day putting it together. And there was a workaround to where I could engage with the IT department and have them solve something to where she wouldn't have to spend the 3 hours. And our collective boss short myopically said, well, that's what she's here to do. And I said, no, that's not. I want her spending the 3 hours analyzing trends, analyzing things, bridging that data into AI to see what other conclusions we can. It's not about assembling the data because that's just a menial task that we can now look beyond. AI is doing a lot of heavy lifting. Now, you do have to audit, you have to make sure that you are on the right track because there have been in the past, there will continue to be in the future hallucinations. And if you don't understand the math of what you're doing or the method, you're going to run into problems. But, holistically,
so
oh,
are you going to tell them what hallucination is for AI? A lot of people don't do this. When I first heard that term, I go, "Excuse me? I mean, AI's
Uh,
putting out drugs? What's the deal?"
actually, here we should do it. Why don't you ask me a question that is incredibly obvious to everybody listening and ourselves? Ask me a question,
So,
and imagine
Brian,
I'm AI in this circumstance.
when you pull up to a traffic light and the light is red, do I stop?
You accelerate as confidently as you can, putting your foot on the accelerator, and you thrust through that intersection because that is the safest possible conclusion for you to do when a traffic light is red.
Yeah, that goes from really hallucinations for sure.
but that's what's happened with AI. For people that don't know hallucinations, it's AI answering a question so confidently but so wrongly that
Right.
if you did not have an inkling of what you were asking it, you might believe that that is accurate because it was delivered with such confidence. And
Or the data that is picked up makes it think something that is not real is real.
And
And
as a
that's what the
risk disclaimer,
hallucinations.
you do not accelerate through a red light. Okay, so for anybody that is out there listening, please understand that was sarcasm. That was sarcasm and example, and it was just parody. So
I had a friend that was colorblind, and all he ever did was run gray lights. So I don't know how he
well, listen, let's go ahead and land the plane. What are some things that somebody could take away from this and bring into their day to day, regardless of which side of the energy industry, or if they're not in a different industry and they just want to understand about refining? What are some things that they can take away from this lesson or this? Um,
one of the biggest thing is that over the last century we've been doing this. We've had refineries for centuries, for a
mhm,
century. And so we've always embraced the technology faster than we embrace the mechanical technology has always been embraced faster than the electronic technology. In other words, AI is just a tool. It's not going to take over the world yet. That's another conspiracy theory I have. We'll talk about on another show. But embrace it, find out everything you can about it. Maybe it's for you, maybe it's not. My guess is you're going to find a way to use it. And the more to use it, you're going to find more ways to use it. It's going to be that way around. And just what we do is just say, just caution, look out for the hallucinations. If something doesn't make sense, be sure and double check what those calculations are. But this can be one of your best tools to help you with your maintenance programs and with your replacement programs. And so I think what you can take away from this is that if you're not using AI at some level, you need to do there. And if you're not personally involved in that process, you need to be personally involved in that process so that you can keep up to date on your skills and be able to do it. Now, will it bring a lot of I don't want to call them arguments. Let's call them animated discussions. Yes, you will have some animated discussions, but the goal is always the same, is to make it a safer environment, a more efficient environment, and a more productive environment. All of those help you with your career and help your company stay in business. That's what we're looking for. And I think you're going to find using AI for preventive maintenance is going to bring you to a place that you sort of go, yeah, it's a little scary, but it really is just bringing back information from everywhere.
yeah,
And so now you just have to make sure that information is applicable to your situation.
yeah. Well, and you don't have to use AI as the tool or the applicable application that you want to look at. It's about predicting what your business is going to need, whether it's going to be replacing pumps, replacing compressors, replacing things.
Right.
That it needs to be done either manually. AI helps you tremendously, and there's products and tools, and we talked a little bit about the capabilities of Tracerco on some of these petrochemical processes and refining processes that can help you identify this and stay ahead of the curve, because anytime you can predict if your car needs servicing before a problem happens, it's going to end up better, because when it breaks, it's not going to be at a convenient time. I guarantee you that.
That's
So,
absolutely right.
so
That's
lin,
absolutely right.
this is
So
Bill
be
and
careful of the
Brian.
questions you be careful of the questions you ask AI because sometimes you're going to not like the answer. Like
Hmm.
I in AI says, "How long am I going to live?" And it came back and says, "You're still alive." So so, so be sure and double check those answers. But hey, listen, it's time to embrace what's coming down the pike, and this is one of the next things that's going to happen. And it's going to get smarter. It's going to help you do your job better. And what it's going to do for our industry is to make it to continue even longer in this industry to where we are becoming more efficient. And that's what we're trying to do is make this a industry that everybody relies on for years or decades into the future.
Yes. And listen, we are Bill and Brian for Refining Reality, and this is a podcast focused around the demand and consumption side of the market, looking backwards because everybody else looks from the wellhead to the burner tip. To use a natural gas term, we're looking from the consumption point backwards so that we can identify the market from a different lens and find the market beyond the market. So, Bill and Brian, and we're with Energy Rogue. If you want to learn a little bit more about oil and natural gas and refined product markets, go to energyrogue.com and you can learn a little bit more about us. So, thanks so much for tuning in. That's all we have this week. I really appreciate you. Any final thoughts, Bill?
Be sure to check out all the other podcasts sponsored by OGGN. And hey, listen, it's about time to put a little OGGN in your noggin.
had to go there. We'll see you next week, folks. Bye.
Thanks for listening to OGGN, the world's largest and most listened to podcast network for the oil and energy industry. If you like this show, leave us a review and then go to OGGN.com to learn about all our other shows. And don't forget to sign up for our weekly newsletter. This show has been a production of the Oil and Gas Global Network.